Well, it's still playing out, and we really don't know where it's going to go. This is one of the things that is very disconcerting, is not knowing where things are going to go, especially in a country that has been ravaged by warfare for more than 40 years. We had all hoped at one time or another that peace will come to Afghanistan. But unfortunately, all that's been done in the past 40 years is merely a continuation of the destruction and mayhem that has afflicted Afghanistan since the Soviet invasion in 1979.
So how do you think the withdrawal should have been carried out? Should President Biden have delayed at the very least or renegotiated the President Trump deal?
Well, it's not for me to tell Mr. Biden what he should have done. But he had enough time to set things in motion in a much better way than they happened in the end. When Mr. Trump made the deal with the Taliban behind the back of the government, it was inevitable that the government would fall. Its legitimacy was negated by that action. And Mr. Biden accepted Mr. Trump's deal with the Taliban. But he had, from the time that Trump made the deal until the withdrawal, there was a year or so to set things in motion, to make it a better arrangement for the troops to withdraw and for the government to do what is necessary. But even the conditions of the withdrawal were simply haphazard and unorganized. That was very unacceptable, I think.
And what is your assessment of the modern day Taliban? I mean, you know them so extensively, particularly from negotiating with them back in the 1990s. You'll have listened to all the reassurances that they've been given to the West, particularly about the rights of women, education, that they're a very different Taliban now. Do you go along with that?
We've had a very disappointing experience with the Taliban. You mentioned our negotiations with them in the 1990s to hand over bin Laden from them to the kingdom to face trial for the crimes that he committed against the kingdom in those days. In the beginning, they agreed, and then they reneged. And subsequent to that, when Mr. Karzai was president, he asked for Saudi Arabia to mediate between the Taliban and his government. The kingdom, we received a delegation from the Taliban here, and the kingdom told them that if they want to be serious about things, they must break their ties with Al-Qaeda, which they did not. So I don't know how much the world can hold them to their statements if that is the background that the kingdom has had with them.
And what about in terms of recognising the Taliban as the official government of Afghanistan? We're in a bit of a kind of limbo period at the moment where, as we're speaking, we just hear that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, has met with representatives from the Taliban. We also hear that the ambassador from Afghanistan to the United States from the Ghani administration is still in place. Should we recognise in the West the Taliban as the official government of Afghanistan?
I don't think so. I think they have to show that they are serious about what they said before you give them international recognition. It's not unusual for countries not to be recognized until the world sees that they deserve that recognition. And from their previous conduct in the past, I think they should be held to account and made sure that what they say is what they implement, and not simply vocal reassurances. So my view is that you should hold recognition of the government. But I think the whole world should continue to find ways to support the Afghan people with humanitarian aid, food aid, medicine, etc., etc. And the United Nations organizations, whether it is the WHO or the World Food Program or such humanitarian efforts, should continue to be the means to provide that aid to the Afghan people.
It's fascinating what you say, Prince Turki, about negotiating with the Taliban in the 1990s to hand over Osama bin Laden. If they had complied, what a different place the world would be right now.
Absolutely.
But that is a way of asking you, Do you think the Taliban could go that way and revert and become a haven again for terrorists like Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, perhaps others?
Well, Al-Qaeda is still in league with them. So they're not going to go other than to keep them as allies. And we've seen how they've displayed the Al-Qaeda as a true friend over the years, et cetera, et cetera. But they're enemies with the so-called Islamic State. The recent explosion in the mosque there was claimed by the Islamic State. The explosion that took place in the airport during the refugee departures there was also claimed by the Islamic State. So it's not a done deal for all the terrorist groups that they will have a haven there. But definitely Al-Qaeda has a haven there. And any offshoots of Al-Qaeda will equally have a haven there.